Yo, what up, YouTube? It's your boy Blingo back here with another video. Hope y'all all been living y'all truth. Now, listen, a couple weeks, maybe last week, I made a video about reacting to my boy DeVille talking about what's going on in them Hidden Hills at Drake crib, his old crib in them Hidden Hills. So we about to talk about, he got the follow-up video he released just a couple minutes ago, and we going to watch it together. I ain't watch it yet. But I know some crazy stuff that's probably happening in that house. I think I don't know exactly what's happening on that house, but some crazy stuff has been happening in that house. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. So let's just see together. Let's get some more details on what's happening in that house because apparently the activity is exposed. Let's check it out right now. Let's go, DeVille. Shout out to DeVille. Let's go.
What's going on, man? Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you'd like to donate to the channel, the cash app's at the top right corner of the video. But let's get into it, man, because I wanted to talk about Hidden Hills a little bit more, specifically with Drake and French Montana, and also The Weeknd. Now, this was referenced to me by Thought Crimes, so shout out to Thought Crimes. Big shout out to them over there doing their thing. Y'all
You
make
said
sure
The
you go follow
Weeknd.
them.
Yo, last time I mentioned in my last video, I mentioned The Weeknd. I mentioned The Weeknd. So let's see if he talks about it. Because remember, I said The Weeknd got the song called The Hills. And he said, the hills have eyes. The hills have eyes. I said that. Now, let's see. Let's see.
And support them. Make sure you hit the subscribe button when you go to their page and show them some love, man. Shout out Thought Crimes. Where it appears to be a DJ Khaled song, and the DJ Khaled song features Drake, and it's called Grease. So I checked out the song. I checked out the song just to see what I could find, if there was anything that I could hear. And off the bat, I could tell you right now, the song does feel kind of strange because the one thing that you notice when you first hear the song is that Drake is trying to sound like The Weeknd. Not only that, but in the second verse, he says, Rolls Royce, baby, in the Hidden Hills, bags full of $100 bills, jogging past your wife, and she gets the chills. Now, the important lyrics, obviously, that me and you could tell is Drake talking about Hidden Hills. In a Rolls Royce in the Hidden Hills, got a bag full of money, full of $100 bills, jogging past your wife, and she gets the chills. Now, I think this is an interesting line. Now, taking a look at the people that lived in Hidden Hills, it'll paint a picture of who Drake is talking about. You can see, to name a few, you have Kris Jenner, Kim Kardashian, The Weeknd. Drake lives there, French Montana, Jessica Simpson, right? Obviously, the wife part is going to be for Kanye West.
Yep.
When you look at Grease and when you see him talking about the Hidden Hills, knowing that his wife is there, lives there, seeing his wife jog and saying that Kim gets the chills. And they were still married at the time because Kim Kardashian didn't divorce Kanye or start to divorce Kanye until January 5th of 2021. At least that's when it was publicized the following year. Grease was dropped in 2020. So if it was anybody's wife, it would be Kanye West. But it's not just a diss to Kanye.
Yeah, he was dissing Kanye. He was dissing Kanye about Kim Kardashian. That's what he was doing. He was doing that a lot. But he denied it when Kanye asked him, which is kind of corny, but
Kanye West. But musically, through audio, the song itself, if you listen to the song, he sounds like The Weeknd. He sounds like The Weeknd a lot. And don't forget the list of people that live there because remember, French Montana was on that list, and we'll get to that in a second. But we could tell he's probably talking about Kanye and Kim Kardashian. But the song itself, he sounds like The Weeknd. And I started to think, is that on purpose? Was Drake dissing The Weeknd on purpose? Now, this song was released in July 17th, 2020. So The Weeknd sells his Hidden Hills property in June 2020. He can't sell the property for the asking price, so he chops it down to $3 million later on. But the property in Hidden Hills was listed in June 2020. Drake had dropped Grease with DJ Khaled on July 17, 2020. I think that Drake was dissing The Weeknd because he knew he was moving out of the neighborhood. And the way to diss him was to mock his flow in the song Grease. He's also throwing shade at Kim Kardashian and Kanye West lyrically in the song by talking about the wife that is strolling by while she's jogging or whatever.
I don't think he was doing that to diss him. I think he was really just biting him. I don't think he was doing that to diss him. Maybe he was, but I don't see like how that's a diss. If anything, that's more flattery than a diss.
But I think at the same time, he's getting at The Weeknd this way. And then I started to think, I think it is pretty odd how Kanye has been vocal about his beef with Drake, right? He's also been vocal about the situation here, talking about how Drake was a neighbor and how he was coming at his wife. I believe, if anything, Hip Hop DX, I covered it in a story one time.
A protector. Now, Drake also played up the rumors with certain lyrics that could potentially be tied back to Kim Kardashian as a part of his feud with Kanye West. And he connected the Drake bars on 2018 Sicko Mode to Kanye and Kim, since he was neighbors with the celebrity couple in the California neighborhood of Calabasas. More recently, Drake also sampled Kim talking about her split from Kanye on Search and Rescue, which dropped last month.
So Kanye was vocal about that. Kim Kardashian was vocal about it. She spoke about it on her show as well. Drake had played into it, and he's playing into it now in these lyrics as well, besides Sicko Mode. But what about The Weeknd? Drake makes a song talking about this, but sounding like The Weeknd at the same time. And he does this song, let me remind you, when The Weeknd is already moving out of the neighborhood, which is funny to me because it's like you choose to mock The Weeknd a month after he decides to move. Then I started to ponder on the
And that's the problem. That's the problem. You want to diss him after he moved. Why you didn't diss him while he was there? That's the stuff that's just weird and corny, honestly. But let's keep it going.
thought of The Weeknd being neighbors with Drake. Drake was living here at the time, as well as The Weeknd, and we never heard them beef. They've been beefing for a long time. Drake and The Weeknd have had a beef, but they're living in the same neighborhood, and nobody's ever heard a story of them arguing. And let me remind you that Hidden Hills has already been talked about in such a strange way by other people. This just adds more suspicion regarding Hidden Hills. Because the beef with Drake and Kendrick is one thing. The beef with Drake and The Weeknd is a whole different thing of itself that doesn't really get talked about as much as it's supposed to. When we talk about Hidden Hills, we talk about the other things like DJ Vlad had talked about, but we don't talk about this portion right here. But somebody who did mention The Weeknd at one point that was close to Drake and his henchmen, people don't know where he's at. And he said this.
All these pussies. Even Drake is scared to get a little Rico today. When I fucking get the Russian government to fucking call the U.S. embassy and play him all these fucking voice notes that top send me about shooting up the fucking Weeknd's manager's house and hitting the security guard. To fucking call the U.S. embassy and play him all these fucking voice notes that top send me about shooting up the fucking Weeknd's manager's house and hitting the security guard.
Because this guy was an associate of Drake's henchmen. The guys that are tapped in with Drake. He was seen with them, seen hanging out with them. So when he says stuff like this, it seems like it's coming from a place of knowledge, like I said previously.
He said top five did it. Y'all think top? I don't know. That's crazy. Top five. He was trying to hint that he did it or he had something to do with it. But the whole thing that's crazy about that is that Drake in a lawsuit was trying to make it seem like Not Like Us was the reason why that happened to him in his house. But then his friends, top five of them, were saying that they were insinuating or kind of hinting to the fact that they did that to The Weeknd's house. So obviously, what happened to your house, Drake, is something that was connected to The Weeknd, but you're trying to play on it in court to say that it has something to do with Not Like Us. Because of the album cover of Not Like Us. That's kind of corny, but let's keep it going.
Allegedly, keep it alleged, right? But that made me think back to when The Weeknd owned this property. So there's no story about The Weeknd and Drake beefing while they were in this neighborhood living together. But this is what the guy was talking about. Security guard outside Weeknd co-manager's Los Angeles residence, an apartment home invasion. But it shows you that obviously Drake and Weeknd don't like each other and their beef is very public and people are aware of it. It's documented on the internet by multiple people and individuals who are close to Drake as well and his entourage.
Officers around a guard shack, and that is where it is believed that security guard was shot multiple times around 2:30 this morning. 911 receiving many calls from people who said they heard 3 to 4 gunshots, and it's possible the victim was alert and conscious and managed to call 911 himself, telling police that he had just been shot here at the home. The suspects, 3 men, all reportedly armed with guns, wearing hoodies, took off running right after the shooting. Now, the multi-million-dollar home belongs to Amir Ismailian, better known as Cash XO, who together with recording artist The Weeknd founded XO Records and has made quite a name for himself in the music industry, at least.
When I fucking get the Russian government to fucking call the U.S. embassy and play him all these fucking voice notes that top send me about shooting up the fucking Weeknd's manager's house and hitting the security guard.
That's crazy. So top five.
So I'm assuming that this song just plays another role in this beef involving The Weeknd and Drake. That's all I'm trying to get at. I think this song did diss Kanye and Kim Kardashian or poke at their marriage lyrically. But I think, in my opinion, that this song was also aimed at The Weeknd by mocking his sound. And Drake did this after he left the Hidden Hills property, after he left the neighborhood. And I think that's what probably upset The Weeknd more, allegedly, in my opinion. But you cannot hear this song and tell me that this doesn't sound like The Weeknd. It sounds exactly.
It does. It sounds exactly like The Weeknd. And when he released the song, everybody was clowning Drake because they said he was biting off the weekend. But let's keep it real. I mean, maybe he did that on purpose to make fun of the weekend. Even though I think that's a stupid way to clown somebody by stealing their sound. That's a dumb way to clown them. But maybe that's what he was doing. Maybe he did it on purpose because he had to know that it sounded like the weekend. So maybe DeVille is right. Maybe he was doing that just to clown the weekend.
Like the weekend, bro. Drake did that on purpose, and he does it right after he moves out. Come on, bro. And this is all alleged though. But I'm just trying to tell you how severe this beef with the weekend and Drake is. What people online are already accusing Drake of, the weekend's team, their security involved in real life situations. Condolences to that man. Safe to say it's not all sunshine and rainbows here, bro. There's obviously something going on. And I think these tracks add a little bit more context to the situation. But staying on the topic with Hidden Hills, I think when the weekend moved out, Drake tried to diss him as well as Kanye. And I don't think it sat right with either team. I think OVO and XO and the weekend's camp, I think there's still animosity there. In my opinion, we'll keep it
There
alleged.
is.
But it does seem strange to diss the weekend when he leaves the neighborhood, when he leaves Hidden Hills. Another lyric that people have pointed out was Can't Take a Joke. Can't Take a Joke was a song that Drake had made back in 2018. Now, let me remind you that Drake still lived at the property all the way until 2022. Richard Fitzenwell is Drake's LLC, aka D. Fitzenwell was the name that he went by at the Mark Hotel. All that, Meet the Grams items were obtained there, all that.
Why you picked that?
And that's when he sold it to Matthew Stafford. He sold it in 2022. So Drake had lived there all the way up until this point where he sold the property to Matt Stafford. So 2018, 2020, Drake is still there. Verse 1, he says, Uber X to Hidden Hills. Give me something I can feel. If they come to Hidden Hills, then I know they know the deal. We just right up the road. You could hit it with a stone. I'd be out here on my own. I'd just be trying to set the tone. I've been kicked when I was down. None of that ish matter now. Guys think they run the town till we run them out of town. And they got to relocate, got to dip from where they stay. Everything will be okay. Man, just stay up out my way. Which is interesting knowing that 2 years later, the weekend moves out of the property. But nonetheless, Drake talks about Hidden Hills.
But that's 2 years. That's 2 years after, so that couldn't have been a shot at the weekend. I was thinking like, wow, Drake was talking spicy right there, but that was 2 years. That was 2 years before he moved, so it couldn't have been a shot at him, obviously.
As if they come to Hidden Hills, then they already know the deal. As if calling women to this compound that they should already be hip to how they get down, which is why we're going to talk about French Montana. Because before Drake had submitted a cease and desist to French Montana for the song Splash Brothers, which is another song that we had to talk about that we talked about previously, where Drake had mentioned Hidden Hills as well. Before Drake had sent the cease and desist to French Montana for the song, where he had also mentioned Hidden Hills, let me remind you that French Montana also lived in Hidden Hills as well. Mm-hmm. And in Can't Take a Joke by Drake, he says if they go to the Hidden Hills, then they know the deal. I'm starting to think that the women in Hidden Hills that they call over, I'm wondering if they know the deal because they know the rules that Drake and French Montana follow. Going back as far as 2016, Drake and French Montana outlined new bro code with 10 snipe commandments. 10 snipe commandments say, thou shalt never pillow talk or discuss business with a ting on any import from the United States, Canada, Europe, or any other region. Thou shalt practice a maximum 3-day export rule to avoid frustration. Any import from the United States, Canada, Europe, or any other region? What import are they talking about? A 3-day export rule. Now, this is strange because the first one is talking about a teen, like a woman. So when you talk about imports, and then we go back to Greece, and Drake says, come with me, fly you out to Greece, full speed. Going back to the snipe commandments, it almost feels like he's referring to flying out women, Greece, all that, right? Allegedly, keep it alleged. But when you talk about things at first, teens at first, women at first, and then talk about imports right after, it just seems strange. We'll keep it alleged. But what do you mean by that? We need some clarification.
Not gonna lie, that do seem kind of strange. But when they first did this, I thought that was pretty cool. You know, I thought it was funny when they did the thing. But I never really sat and read all of them like in great detail. You know, I knew that it was, you know, I thought it was basic stuff like, you know, don't sleep with your brother's girl, and you know, I thought it was bro code stuff, but apparently it got some other stuff to it.
Shall always be honest with his brother about a splash. And like I said, they had
There
made
you
that
go.
song Splash Brothers, where Rick Ross had mentioned Hidden Hills, similar to how Vlad TV had mentioned Hidden Hills, because Drake sent the cease and desist for this record called Splash Brothers, where Drake says, "Guys know the real secrets left in Hidden Hills. Bought the whole street up and I got it for a steal." Bought the whole thing up, right? Thou shalt only splash unprotected if the ting is a must splash, or you trust the vibe, or you plan to keep the vibe for a minimum of 6 months with 4 interactions within a loaded time period.
What the
Like I said,
freak?
I don't know what import means, but
They
they're talking about
stupid.
tings and brothers and splashing. I don't know, bro. Sounds strange. Thou shalt always lie to protect the brother's reputation or chance of a splash conversion in the near or distant future. Now, this is saying that they'll go out their way to lie for each other, to protect each
This
other, get
is
each other's back, especially
bro
in the
code.
chances to advance with a ting, I guess, whatever the case may be. Thou shalt be allowed to hunt in all jungles unless a trespass has been enforced verbally. And this, I'm gonna be honest, bro, it sounds like they're trying to say that they could flirt or splash any woman unless somebody verbally says that they can't. Thou shalt always provide splash accommodations for a brother within his household. Within his household. So I'm starting to think, is Drake talking about the Hidden Hills? Is he talking about that household that him and French lived at? I don't know. Thou shalt
I
use
think he's talking about all households, like all households. He's. It sounds like from that one, it sounds like he's saying like, "Yo, if you come by to my crib, then I'm gonna make sure I got shorties there for you. I'm gonna have girls there for you." That's what it sounds like he's saying. No matter what, you should always accommodate girls there for you, for your brother within the household. You get what I mean?
communication with the brother to avoid being blindsided by other hunters and poachers. I guess like doing two mans or whatever. And this one's important too. Thou shalt never use a hand to hand currency exchange to guarantee a splash unless hunting in
In
exotic
exotic
locations.
locations.
Now, this is talking about buying, purchasing a splash. Take that for what you will. But they're saying to only use it in exotic locations, which takes me back to Greece. Fly you out, come with me, fly you out to Greece, full speed, Cerveler Paris. And then going back to the first rule that it had mentioned at the top, when they're talking about imports and stuff like that, all these rules just seem strange and just seem like if they're referring to a splash and teens, like if they're just objects, like just material objects.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy because I didn't know when they first did it. I didn't know that it was so detailed about like specifically about women. I always thought it was like guy code type things. I never really read it. Like, I never read it. I just thought it was cool that, they did like a guy code thing. But that's kind of weird though. The export import stuff is kind of weird though. I ain't gonna lie.
It just seems very strange, bro. And this was written in 2016, and French Montana was his neighbor that whole time. And remember what Vlad said about Hidden Hills.
They filed a lawsuit, or like I thought there was gonna be a few of those to take advantage of the moment. And there's been not one person that's accused Drake of anything. Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if some shit starts coming out. Well, from what I understand, when Drake first moved to like Hidden Hills, like they were wilding out in that house. Him and his homies were doing some shit that probably got covered up somehow. You know what I'm saying? And now maybe people got paid. Maybe this partying. Not like. I heard some stories, but and I'm not gonna mention them. It was getting it in type shit. I mean, some things could happen. Maybe he's paying them off. Like, I think Drake is just paying them off, and so.
So I'm starting to think, bro, that French Montana, Splash Brothers, I think the Splash Commandments, the Snipe Commandments, whatever they are, I think this has a lot to do with Hidden Hills, Drake, and also French Montana, allegedly. We'll keep it alleged.
Definitely.
But there's a reason why Drake has sent a cease and desist for this record. Talking about Hidden Hills, Splash Brothers, we're talking about the commandments that were submitted or posted back in 2016. French Montana living there in the Hidden Hills, the same time that Drake is talking about sharing a location to splash for your brother in the household, all this other stuff that's being posted. It just seems like when Vlad was talking about Hidden Hills, I feel like it was Drake and other artists as well, potentially, allegedly, possibly, maybe French Montana also. We'll keep it alleged, but you could tell me how you feel about that one, bro. All of this just seems very strange. Not too sure what to make of it at the time, but y'all can tell me how you feel about this in the comments.
That's crazy, y'all. What y'all think, man? Like I said in my last video, what was Drake doing in that house? What Drake was doing in that house? Like, I don't know, man. It seemed like that whole Hidden Hills thing was like an error. Respectfully, it was an error. And maybe nothing happened. But It just seems like it's too much hiding and wanting to remove themselves from it. And this and that it's too much. Some crazy stuff was happening in the Hidden Hills. There's too much hidden hills. So y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Y'all think he was doing stuff in the Hidden Hills? I mean, there's a couple of people in my last video, they were kind of mad. But I mean, you gotta be honest. He's hiding from that house for a reason. So y'all let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on TikTok, follow me on Instagram at Blingo4Vero. Live your truth. Be true to yourself. Always. Shop Vero, veroclothing.net. I'm out. Peace.